Welcome to the webinar Preparing for Weight Loss Surgery. My name's Angela Askew. I'm your dietitian. For the next 20 to 30 minutes, I'm going to be going through the pre-op OptiFast guidelines with you, and I'll also go through what to expect in the first few weeks after weight loss surgery. My email is going to be on the slides that I'll show you, so if you do have any questions, please feel free to email me anytime. The other thing is all the information that I'll be going through will be emailed to you prior to you hopefully watching this video. So if you do have any questions, they might be answered on that handout. So let's get going. So preparing for weight loss surgery. So like I said, I'll be going through the OptiFast diet and what to expect in the first few weeks after surgery. And that's my email, dietitian@southwestsurgery.com.au if you have any questions. So firstly, this is a breakdown of what to expect around weight loss surgery, whether you're having the gastric sleeve or the bypass. So the first few weeks leading up to your surgery, you are required to do a meal replacement diet, usually for about 2 weeks. After surgery though, we have a number of texture modified diets leading you from the day of surgery back to eating normal solid foods. Week 1 is a fluid only diet, so that's just fluids for 7 days. Then we move to a puree only diet, so that's where all your food's pureed up to a nice smooth consistency. That's just going to make eating a lot easier for you in the first few weeks. We do that for 2 weeks. Then we move on to some nice soft foods, and we're going to do a soft food diet for 2 weeks after that. And then back to normal solid foods around 6 weeks after surgery. Before I get on to the OptiFast diet though, I just want to go through the pack that you'll receive from the surgery. So in this pack, you've got a number of tools that are going to help you during your weight loss journey. The first thing here is a book. So your complete guide to nutrition for weight loss surgery. This is a fantastic book. It's written by a dietitian. You have a chapter on how the weight loss surgeries work for you. Then you also have a chapter on the pre-op diet with some recipes. Then it moves to the surgery itself and the different diet phases after surgery. So you have a chapter on the fluid diet, the puree, the soft, and back to normal healthy eating. And within each of those chapters, you've got some really great recipes that it would be really useful for you to use and experiment with. The other thing here are some multivitamins. So we recommend the BN Chew, so the Bariatric Nutrition Chewable multivitamins or the capsules. In your pack, you will get the chewable multivitamins and you will start taking them after surgery. If you don't like them, that's fine. You can move on to the capsules, and that's something we can discuss after your surgery. Also here, we've got some whey-based protein. So we know during weight loss, particularly after bariatric surgery, ensuring that you're getting enough protein is very important to prevent too much muscle mass and to help you stay healthy through your weight loss journey. So we like to just provide you with a protein powder that you can add to some foods and drinks to supplement your diet. So that's for after surgery. Also here you've got a bariatric plate, and you also have a bariatric bowl. So the bariatric plate is giving you an indication of what type of portion size you might be sitting at in the long term after weight loss surgery. And you'll see it's about entree size plate. And then the bowl here is a good one for you too. It's got some measurements on it and can be a good guide in terms of how much to serve yourself at each meal, at each stage after your surgery. So let's get on to the OptiFast. Okay, so we know that we'll be doing OptiFast leading up to your surgery. OptiFast diets and meal replacement diets are very important to help make the surgery easier for Dr. Zaruk and your surgeon, and safer for you, and your recovery is usually faster if we've got some weight loss happening before your surgery. So Optifast is a medically formulated meal replacement diet. The products have all the vitamins, minerals and nutrients that your body needs to keep you healthy while initiating that weight loss. And the way that the weight loss works is through a process of ketosis. So really what we're doing is minimizing the amount of carbohydrates and calories that your body gets from your diet. And that forces your body to break down fat stores, usually primarily from around the liver. And that's called ketosis, that breaking down of the fatty stores. The good thing about shrinking the liver down is that it makes the liver nice and soft, and it just moves it out of the way so doctors or your surgeon can get in and do the surgery easier. Good thing about ketones is that they are natural appetite suppressants. So once that ketosis kicks in, usually about 48 hours after you start Optifast, your appetite should calm down. You shouldn't feel too hungry. So these are the Optifast products up here, and you get them from your chemist. So how do you use Optifast? So we're going to be doing the Optifast diet for as long as your surgeon recommends. When you do start Optifast, you'll be using 3 Optifast products every day to substitute your usual meals. You are allowed to have some other foods on Optifast, and I will go through that. You can use any of the Optifast products. So Optifast makes shakes, bars, soups, and desserts, and they all are equivalent in terms of their nutrients and their carbohydrate content. So you can use a combination of any 3 that you like. So up here we've got Optifast desserts, that's the soup. We've got some bars here, and we've got the different flavored shakes as well. It is very important that you stick to the guidelines, otherwise we might not get the results we need leading up to the surgery. If you do have any side effects, you can actually mimic a very low energy diet, Optifast, with foods. So if you have any allergies that you're worried about, or you've tried Optifast before and you know that you really can't tolerate them, you can use OptiSlim as an alternative, or similar products like Kickstart, but Optifast is preferred. If you feel that meal replacements, you aren't tolerating them, or because of your allergies you can't have them, like I said, you can do a food only diet. You just need to let me know and I can email through the guidelines for you. So this is a breakdown of what you can have every day during your Optifast diet. Okay, so we've got 3 Optifasts every day. You can also have at least 2 cups of what we call low starch or free vegetables. Plus, you should also include 180 to 100 gram serve of lean, high protein food. So that is going to be lean meat, chicken, fish, or eggs. And I'll go through the details in the next few slides. And it's also very important when you're doing any kind of really low calorie diet that you drink lots of water or fluid. So in total, I'd like you to drink 3 litres of water a day, and that water can be a combination of water, some soda waters, diet cordial, cups of tea, and also the water that you add to your shakes. So the diet cordial, sugar-free soft drink. You can also have things like diet jelly, sugar-free lollies, and black tea and coffee in your daily diet as well. We're just going to restrict the amount of milk, and I'll get to the reasons behind that as we move forward. So this is what I mean by low energy foods. So this slide is showing you a very short list of low calorie or free vegetables, and we should be having at least 2 cups of these vegetables every day. If you're feeling really hungry, you can have up to 6 or 7 cups of these veggies every day, just making sure that they are on the allowed list. The sheet that's been emailed to you has another list of allowed vegetables and not allowed vegetables that you can include. So have a read of that. And also your book has the chapter on the PreOp diet with a list of allowed vegetables and also how you might like to use these in recipes. Generally, it's most vegetables except for potato, sweet potato, corn, lentils and legumes. So things like chickpeas, split peas, kidney beans are all out. None of those are allowed during OptiFast because of the carbohydrate content. But you should be having a lot of things like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbages, tomato, lettuce, cucumber, zucchini, herbs and spices, and other things that are on the list there. Now to jazz them up, of course, you can use a little bit of olive oil. So you might use 1 or 2 teaspoons of olive oil a day, either to stir fry your vegetables or to make salad dressings along with vinegars, apple cider vinegar, balsamic vinegar, a little bit of mustards, lemons, and salt and pepper, herbs and spices. So we've got the OptiFast, the vegetables, and then we've got our extra protein that we need to include every day. So to make sure that you are getting enough protein during your pre-op diet, everybody does need to include a small serve of lean protein. So that's about palm size. Generally it's 80 to 100 grams, and that can be lean beef, chicken with no skin, or fish, or 2 eggs. Another example is a small tin, a 90-gram tin of tuna in spring water, or a vegetarian option being that 80 grams of tofu. So generally it's 100 grams raw and 80 grams cooked, but an even better guide is probably palm size because that's going to make the portion relative to you. So if you're a big guy, you know, you're generally going to have the larger palm, so you should be eating a little bit more protein than a smaller lady, for example. Now with the meals, you can have these types of foods just grilled, so grilled fish with some salad, a lean steak with some cooked vegetables, but no gravies, no mayonnaises, only salad dressings that have been written as allowed, and certainly nothing fried or battered. So no beer battered fish or chicken schnitzels or the hot chips that might go with some of those meals. The other thing here is to make sure that you're looking at the portion. So if you are going out to eat, just make sure that that palm-sized portion is your guide, because if you do have more than your body needs, that will slow down or stop that ketosis and that weight loss. So we've talked about foods you should include every day. It's also really important for you to know that there are some foods you really have to avoid altogether while doing OptiFast. So it's really important to avoid all foods that have any carbohydrates in them or sugar, so whether that be added sugar or natural sugar. So there's going to be lots of healthy foods here that you can't have during OptiFast, and then some of the more high sugar snack foods which you have to avoid. So on that list, we definitely need to make sure that there's no fruit or fruit juice because of the natural and added sugar in some of the fruit juices, for example. The only exception is a small amount of fresh berries, 1 passion fruit, or some lemons and limes in your either cooking or in your waters. So a small amount of fresh berries is a small handful of strawberries, for example, so you can have that, but that's the only fruit. There's no bread, crackers or crisp breads on OptiFast, whether they be rice-based or gluten-free, low carb, none of those can be included. Pasta, rice and noodles also have to be avoided altogether. We talked about the vegetables, so you can have lots of those free vegetables, but no potato, sweet potato, corn, lentils or legumes. Biscuits, cakes, lollies, chocolates and chips either have too much carbohydrate or too many calories, so they're all out during your OptiFast. Yogurt, milk and dairy desserts like Milo snacks, for example, and custards have the natural milk sugar in them, so we can't have any of those. That includes things like soy milk, lactose-free milk, oat milk, and all the other varieties. The only exception, like I quickly mentioned earlier, is that you can have a splash of milk in tea or coffee 2 or 3 times a day. But there's no lattes or cappuccinos where you're making a drink primarily with that milk because of the natural sugar content. Alcohol, regular soft drinks, regular cordials and energy drinks are also out because of the sugar content. But you may have some diet cordial and you may have 1 diet soft drink a day at the most. So that's just going to be, you know, a small can or a glass, for example. So this is a breakdown of how you might use those foods. So you've got 2 sample meal plans there. You've got one starting with the OptiFast shake. Morning tea is half an OptiFast bar. Lunch is 1 OptiFast soup with extra vegetables added to it. Afternoon tea, we've got the second half of that OptiFast bar from the morning with a tea and a splash of milk, no sugar. You may use artificial sweetener though. And then dinner, because we've had our 3 OptiFasts through the day, we're then going to have lots of those vegetables and we're going to have a small serve of the lean protein. So chicken stir fry is 1 meal there. And then after dinner, it's just more of those free foods. So either extra veggies or we've got there a diet jelly and tea. The second day, again, we've started with an OptiFast shake. Some people do like to put the OptiFast shake blended over ice, so it's really nice and cold, and adding a shot of coffee or sugar-free flavouring in there, or even some essence of some sort to give it a different flavour. So feel free to do that. Morning tea, we've got that very small allowed portion of 5 strawberries with a cup of tea or coffee. Lunch, we've just got the vegetables with a tin of tuna, so that's our extra protein there. Afternoon tea is an OptiFast bar with a cup of tea. Dinner, because we've already had our extra protein or meat serve earlier on, we're just going to have vegetables. And then for supper, we've got an OptiFast dessert, so that might be the chocolate pudding. Some people do like to freeze that one or make the shakes with a bit less water and freeze that and have that as a supper or dessert. Now, when you are doing OptiFast, we have something called a 3-day challenge. So it can just be your body getting used to the dietary change. Some people do find they get a bit of diarrhea and some people find they get more constipation when they're doing OptiFast. Diarrhea is quite common because you do lose a bit of fluid in the first couple of days, and that usually will resolve itself. And constipation can be just from the changes in the bulk of food that you're eating, so things like vegetable fibre. So you can use this Benny Fibre, this green one down here, in your shakes or in some water. It's got no flavour, and you just get that from your supermarket or chemist. The bad breath, so that's a sign that the ketosis is working and all those ketones are running through your body, and you can have sugar-free chewing gum. Headaches can be a result of a few different things, usually because you're not eating the same amount of carbohydrate that your brain likes to feed off, or salt. If you find that you are getting some headaches, having a little bit of a salty drink like some broth or a little bit of stock with that salt in it can help. And the bottom one there is that hangry, so that tiredness and being a little bit cranky, and that's your body going into ketosis, and hopefully you'll feel a lot better after the 3 days. If you are lactose intolerant, I still do recommend you try OptiFast if you haven't before. There's some Lactase tablets here that you can get from your chemist, and you just pop that into your shake and let that start to break down the lactose for you, so it's easier to digest. Otherwise, things like the bars are quite low in lactose, so you might like to try them. So that's your OptiFast diet. So that's for the weeks leading up to your surgery. If you have any questions about it, make sure you email me. Now to get on to what to expect after surgery. So I did go through this in the beginning, but just again, we're going to do a fluid-only diet for 1 week. Then we're going to do a puree diet for 2 weeks. Then we're going to move to soft foods for 2 weeks before returning back to normal solid textured food around 6 weeks after your surgery. So I'll go through the first 2 in this webinar, and then we'll go through the rest after your surgery. So the fluid-only diet is pretty self-explanatory. It's only fluids. It's straight after surgery. You may find that you have a little bit of pain when you drink, and particularly if you were to be eating. So that's why we're just drinking. And we just want to make sure that the stomach is nice and comfortable, which is why we do fluids for that 1 week. Water is obviously a wonderful fluid, but it doesn't give you any nutrition for healing. So I don't want you just going home for a week drinking water. I'd like you to include things that we call nourishing fluids. So you might return to some of your Optifast shakes, or you might start to reintroduce things that you weren't having on Optifast. So things like protein or milk-based drinks, so smoothies with some fruit in it. Your milky coffees can come back in. Juices, vegetable juices, a little bit of those are fine as well. And smooth or drinking yogurts. Another one there too is protein water, which you can get from chemists and some supermarkets as well. And that's a good way to give your body a bit of that protein while you're still on that fluid diet. Now, to avoid any pain or any nausea when you're drinking, it's really important to sip your fluids very, very slowly. So we call them micro sips. So they're sips smaller than probably what you take now. And it's just about giving your stomach just a little bit of fluid all through the day without overfilling it or making you feel uncomfortable. It's wonderful if you can aim to have 1.5 litres of fluids before you leave the hospital, just to make sure that when you go home, you'll still be drinking enough fluids, and keep that up. And things to avoid on the fluid diet is anything that's not a fluid, as well as no fizzy drinks. So that's nothing gassy that might push out on the stomach and cause you any discomfort. No alcohol, and only fluids thin enough to pass through a straw. So nothing that's really overly thick or lumpy. The puree diet then. So after 7 days of fluid, we move on to some purees. So at the top there, we've got a picture of what looks like a chicken and sweet potato and carrot puree. So all foods during the puree diet must be put through a food processor or a blender. So what you're really looking for is a food that's got the same consistency all the way through it, no big lumps, and it's not too dry. So adding some sauces or gravies or a little bit of stock to your meals as you're blending them will make them nice and thin and loose. So when you can eat them, it's a lot more comfortable and you can get a little bit more in, which would be good for your healing. Now, when you do start puree foods, don't expect to be able to eat very much. The average intake around this stage is 1/4 cup. Some people may eat less and some people may eat more. The most important thing is that you are comfortable and that you are just experimenting with these types of foods to get used to how different foods feel in your stomach. The most important thing still at this stage is that you are drinking those fluids, and ideally some fluids that are going to give you some energy and some protein, like the ones I listed in the previous slide. When you are on the puree diet, it is still recommended that you chew your puree foods. So take a small mouthful, a teaspoon or half a teaspoon, chew it up, squash the food up against the roof of your mouth to get rid of any lumps, and eat really nice and slowly. So putting your cutlery down between each mouthful. That will help you stay comfortable. This is also when you'll start taking your multivitamins. So we're going to start chewing 2 of the chewable multivitamins that were provided in your pack. You won't have the capsules yet, but you will have the chewables from the pack. And we're going to chew 2 of those every day. And the other tip there is don't eat and drink at the same time. That's really just to reduce the risk of overfilling the stomach and causing you any pain or any discomfort. And the general rule is that you leave a 30-minute gap before you eat and a 30-minute gap after you eat before you start drinking again. So what next? So about 2 weeks after your surgery, you'll meet up again with your surgeon and with your dietitian, so me, and we'll obviously have a talk about what you're eating, whether you're having any problems or any pain with any foods, and how to improve your tolerance so you can eat more comfortably and get the nutrition you need. I'll also go over the vitamins and the supplements of the protein that you're provided with, and give you a little bit more of an idea where you can get similar products if you're not tolerating them. And obviously my role is to support you to get back to eating normal, healthy eating so you can get the most out of your weight loss journey while staying really nice and healthy for the long term. So if you have any questions about anything that I've just been through, have a read of the handout that I've emailed you, and also the book that you've been provided with will answer lots of questions. Otherwise, feel free to email me at any time. If you find any interesting products that you'd like my advice on, please take a picture of it and email it to me. I'd be more than happy to give you my advice on how to use those different foods or drinks during your weight loss journey. All the best. Thank you.